Welcome back to Dark Horror Stories. In today's episode, I'm sharing 8 true disturbing stories from Phoenix. These are tales of people who took lonely highway rides across the valley and ended up seeing something they still can't explain. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button and let me know where you're watching from in the comments. Story 1. Phoenix at night has this weird split personality people don't talk about unless they've spent enough time driving through it. One minute you're in airport traffic with brake lights stacked up like red beads, planes crawling over your windshield, the smell of jet fuel and fryer grease drifting in through a cracked window. 10 minutes later, you're on a road with almost nobody around, dark mountain on one side, open dirt on the other, and it feels like the city got peeled away behind you. I used to drive rideshare part-time after my divorce, mostly because I couldn't stand being in my apartment all evening. I kept little routines. Same gas station coffee, same cheap cinnamon gum in the center console, same faded Sun's towel over the back seat because one guy puked in my car during spring training and I never really got over it. I think it was late August, or maybe early September, because I remember the monsoon smell still hanging in the air even though the ground was dry. I'd already done 3 airport runs and was about to log off when I got a pickup at Terminal 4. She was standing alone by the curb with no suitcase, just a tan purse tucked under one arm. That should have felt odd right away, but airport pickups are full of people who make no sense. She got in the back on the passenger side and gave me an address near the southern edge of the city, past the lit-up stuff, almost at the base of South Mountain. Her voice was soft, not weak, just low, like she'd been talking all day and was tired of hearing herself. I remembered dumb details because that's how memory works. Her nails were short and clean. One shoe had a little scuff on the toe. My charging cable kept slipping out of its port and making my dashboard blink. There was a receipt from Circle K stuck in the cup holder. None of that matters except it all happened before anything I can't explain. At first, the ride felt normal. She didn't ask for music, didn't make small talk. I merged onto the freeway, then off again, heading toward the quieter roads near the mountain. The city looked smeared out behind us in the mirror, all orange haze and blinking towers. About 15 minutes in, I noticed the back of my neck felt cold. Not cold outside, cold inside the car, like somebody had opened a freezer behind me. I checked the air. It was still set low, same as always. I tapped the vent and laughed a little, mostly to myself, and said, "Sorry, AC in this thing has 2 settings, off and meat locker." She didn't answer. I figured she had earbuds in and I hadn't noticed. People do that. Then her seat belt clicked open. I looked in the mirror and saw she was still sitting upright, hands folded in her lap. A second later, the belt clicked shut again. I told myself the latch was loose. My Corolla had all kinds of tired little noises by then. If a door panel buzzed, I smacked it. If a warning light came on, I prayed over it and kept driving. Still, I glanced up into the mirror again. She was already looking back at me. That part bothered me more than the seatbelt. I hadn't heard her move. Most passengers either stare at their phones or out the window. She was watching me in the mirror with this calm expression, not smiling, not angry, just waiting almost. "You can go a little faster," she said. "You're almost there." I hadn't told her I knew the route and my navigation volume was off. I said, "Yeah, app's got it." She tilted her head. "I know." I wish I could say that's when I got scared. I didn't. I got annoyed, tired. The kind of tired where your nerves are already thinned out and every little strange thing feels personal. I thought maybe she was drunk or high or just one of those people who enjoy making drivers uncomfortable because they know you're trapped in a polite transaction. A few miles later, I took a frontage road that cut closer to the address. Fewer streetlights there, more empty lots, chain-link fences, dirt shoulders. The mountain just sitting there like something that had been waiting longer than the city. That's when she asked, "Do you still keep your daughter's drawings in the trunk?" My hands tightened on the wheel so hard my knuckles ached. I had one drawing back there, a horse in purple marker. My daughter Poppy had made it maybe 6 months earlier, and I tucked it under the emergency kit because I didn't want it bent. I said, "Excuse me." She didn't repeat herself, just looked out the window. I went through every rational thing first, because that's what you do when you want to stay a normal person. Maybe I'd mentioned my kid on the ride and forgotten. Maybe she'd seen a child's seat once, even though I didn't keep one in there. Maybe there was some little horse sticker somewhere. Maybe. You start stacking weak explanations because the other option makes your skin feel too tight. We turned onto a narrower road. The app map froze for a second, then jumped. Her destination pin moved about half a mile farther into a stretch of dark I knew didn't have houses. I frowned and said, "That's weird." She leaned forward a little. I smelled wet dirt, not rain, not perfume. That smell from a wash after runoff sits too long in the heat. "Keep going," she said. I looked in the rearview mirror again, mostly because I didn't want to turn my whole head, and I saw her smile. I need to say this right because this is the part I still think about when I'm stopped at lights and somebody's in my back seat. Her face in the mirror smiled before her real face did, just for a second, a tiny delay. The woman herself was still expressionless, but her reflection had already stretched into this polite, eager grin. I jerked my eyes up to the road, then back to the mirror, thinking maybe the mirror had vibrated or I was exhausted. That's when her mouth opened sideways, not wider, sideways, like the seam of it ran too far into her cheeks and had finally given up pretending it didn't. And while that impossible smile hung there in the mirror, her actual voice from the back seat said, very gently, "You passed it." I hit the brakes so hard my tires chirped. The car stopped half on the pavement, half on dirt. My heart was banging so hard I could feel it in my gums. I turned around. She was sitting normally, mouth closed, hands folded, eyes on me, no weird grin. No torn open face, just a woman in the back seat. I actually laughed once, a stupid little burst. That's how close I was to losing my grip. "I'm taking you to a gas station," I said. "You can order another ride." For the first time, she looked irritated, not angry, just disappointed. "This is where I get out," she said. I looked past her through the back window. There was nothing there but dirt, palo-verde shadows, and one sagging chain across an entrance road. No house, no building, no porch light, just dark land pushing up against the mountain. "No," I said and put the car in drive. The sound came right next to my ear, not from the back seat. Right next to my ear, like someone in the passenger seat had leaned in. "Nolan." I swerved so hard the tires scraped gravel. I don't know why hearing my own name did more than everything else, but it did. Maybe because the voice sounded familiar, not like her, not like a stranger. More like the voice you hear when somebody wakes you from a bad dream and for a second you don't know where you are. I slammed the gas. She didn't shout, didn't grab me. I would almost rather she had. Instead, I heard movement behind me, slow at first, then quicker, not shifting in a seat, climbing. The rear suspension dipped once. The roof gave a soft metallic thump. I looked up in the mirror and saw empty back seat. Then fingers curled down over the top edge of the rear window from above. 5 pale fingers, 2 long knuckles bending the wrong way, tapping against the glass as if testing it. I drove like an idiot after that. Blew a stop sign, took a turn too fast and clipped the curb. I saw a lit gas station ahead, one of those quick trips that always seems open no matter what hour it is, and I pulled in so hard I almost hit the air pump. Everything went quiet. I jumped out with my phone in one hand and a tire iron in the other, though I don't remember grabbing it. The fluorescent lights made everything look fake and flat. A guy filling up his truck glanced at me and then away like I was just another Phoenix weirdo having a midnight problem. The back seat was empty, no purse, no passenger, no footprint on the floor mat. My app still showed the ride active for another few seconds, then it ended on its own. No tip, obviously, no rating. By morning, the trip had vanished from my history entirely. I stood there shaking beside the pump until the clerk asked if I was okay. I told myself she'd bylade when I stopped. I told myself the mirror thing was exhaustion. I told myself the fingers on the glass were light distortion. I told myself a lot of things. Then I drove home, and when the sun came up, I saw the inside roof of my car. Directly above the rear seat, pressed into the headliner fabric from the inside, were 5 deep dents in a row. Not scratches, not tears. Just 5 oval thumbprint-like impressions, as if someone had hung upside down from the ceiling and dug in hard. There was also dirt scattered across the roof liner, not on the floor, on the ceiling. I sold that Corolla 3 days later. I still have Poppy's horse drawing though. When I finally checked the trunk, it wasn't under the emergency kit anymore. It was laid flat on top, like somebody had been looking at it. Story 2. If you've never left downtown Phoenix after midnight in shoes you regret wearing, I don't recommend starting with July. The heat doesn't let go. It just turns meaner. Buildings keep throwing it back at you, and every parking garage smells like hot concrete and spilled beer. I was coming out of a friend's engagement party near Roosevelt Row when I ordered a pooled rideshare because surge pricing was stupid and I was feeling cheap. I had one blister on my left heel, a paper bracelet still stuck to my wrist from the venue, and a little foil packet of cold fries in my purse that I kept meaning to throw away. My friend Autumn had hugged me too hard, gotten lipstick on my cheek, and told me to text when I got home. I remember that because I didn't. The driver was a guy named Jace Rowan, nice enough, mid-30s maybe. Had one of those careful voices people use when they've spent years working customer service. There was another passenger already in the front seat, a woman named Priya Does, who was heading north too. She had a laptop bag on her knees and looked just as tired as I felt. We got on I-17 heading toward Anthem. I lived up that direction at the time, in one of those developments where every third house had a fake stone entryway and a cactus trying its best in decorative rock. The city thinned out behind us pretty quickly. That stretch always feels strange to me at night, because it starts urban and then, almost without asking permission, turns into long dark edges and black hillside shapes. For the first part of the ride, everything was ordinary in a way that makes what came later harder to talk about. Jace had peppermint wrappers in the center console. Priya kept apologizing for answering work emails. My phone battery was at 6%. The air freshener smelled vaguely like laundry detergent. Somebody in a lifted truck cut us off, and Jace muttered, "There goes another future insurance claim." Then the app rerouted. Jace frowned at his phone mount and said, wants me to grab one more rider." Priya checked her screen and said, "At this hour? Maybe coming off shift," he said. The pickup point was off a frontage road near a boarded gas station north of the city. I remember seeing the station before we turned in. Half the canopy lights were dead. The place looked closed enough to be in a movie. There was a boy standing by the ice machine. At least I thought he was a boy. Teenager, maybe 16 or 17, thin, wearing a gray hoodie with the hood up even though it was too hot for that. No bag, no water bottle, no phone in his hands. The second he got in, the car smelled like creosote after rain and something older underneath that. Not rot, more like wet cardboard kept in a garage too long. He slid into the back seat beside me and shut the door very gently. Jace said, "How's it going, man?" No answer. I figured he was upset or embarrassed or maybe just had headphones in under the hood. People are allowed to be weird in rideshares. That's basically the whole business model. We pulled back onto the highway. Maybe 2 minutes later, the boy said, "Don't look left when we pass the horse fence." His voice was low and rough, like he hadn't used it in a while. Jace gave this little laugh and said, "That sounds ominous." Priya turned around halfway in her seat. "Horse fence?" The boy didn't answer. He was looking straight ahead between the seats. I wish I could say I listened. I didn't. There's a long, ugly talent human beings have for doing exactly the thing they're told not to do, especially when the warning sounds too specific to be fake. I kept my eyes on the road for maybe 20 seconds, maybe 30. Then I saw a fence flashing by in the left median area, black rails or maybe dark wire, and I turned my head just enough to check. At first I thought it was somebody running. That was the first explanation my brain offered up because it had to offer something. Then I realized no person runs that fast, and definitely not over broken median ground full of rock and low brush. It was keeping pace with us, not on all fours, not upright either. It moved in these long, folding strides, hands or front hands, I don't know what else to call them, touching down every few steps. The shoulders were too high. The back rose and dropped like a trap closing. And every time our headlights caught part of it through the barrier gap, I saw pale skin flash over joints that didn't match the rhythm of a dog or a person. My mouth went dry so fast I had to swallow twice. "Jace," I said. "I see it," he said immediately. Priya made the mistake of looking too. She let out this thin sound, almost a laugh and not a laugh at all. The thing stayed with us. That was what made it unbearable. If it had appeared and vanished, maybe we could have talked ourselves down. A coyote in bad light, a person on something, some highway illusion. But it stayed with us, matching speed with this horrible, easy motion, disappearing behind concrete breaks and then reappearing exactly where it should not have been able to be. The boy beside me said, "If it gets to the shoulder, don't stop." Nobody answered him. Up ahead, construction narrowed the lanes. Orange barrels, reflective tape. No traffic around us except one semi way ahead. The thing on the median started to come closer. I could hear it then, not a growl, not pause, a fast, dry slapping sound like somebody smacking wet towels against pavement. Jace accelerated, so did it, and then I saw the part I still have dreams about. It hit one of the concrete drainage slopes and rose higher than the median, just for a second, enough for the headlights to catch its whole upper body. Its head was facing backward, not twisted around in a dramatic movie way, just built that way it seemed. The shoulders and chest drove one direction while the face, if it was a face, looked calmly the other toward us, skin stretched smooth where the eyes should have reflected. Priya screamed. Jace swore and jerked the wheel away from the barrier. The boy beside me grabbed the back of my seat so hard the leather creaked. "Garage," he said. "Next exit, don't stay level with it." I didn't ask how he knew. None of us did. Jace took the next exit too fast and nearly fishtailed. We blasted through a yellow light and cut into the first structure we saw, a concrete parking garage attached to some office building or medical complex, I can't remember which. We spiraled up the ramps, tires squealing, level after level, empty, fluorescent, my stomach flipping from the turns. Halfway up, Jace hit the brakes. There was something on the inner wall of the ramp. At first it looked like dark smears. Then we passed close enough to see them. Handprints. A line of them, not random, not scattered. A neat, evenly spaced trail of dark palm marks running along the concrete at driver window height, curving upward with the ramp as if something had climbed the outside of the spiral and kept one hand pressed to the wall the entire way. Nobody said anything for a few seconds. Then Priya whispered, "It came up with us." Jace drove faster. We reached the top floor where the garage opened to the night. Warm wind, distant highway noise, city lights way south. Jace pulled into a corner spot and killed the headlights but kept the engine running. The boy in the back seat said, "Don't get out." I turned to look at him. The hood had slipped back a little. He didn't look monstrous. That almost made it worse, just exhausted, young, skin too pale under the garage lights. "What is that?" I asked. He looked out through the back window instead of at me. "I don't know." which for some reason I believed. We sat there for I don't know how long, maybe 10 minutes, maybe 40, long enough for my phone to die, long enough for sweat to dry on my ribs and then start again. Once something tapped the roof of the car, 3 slow knocks. Jace made this strangled sound in his throat and clutched the wheel. No one moved. Just before dawn, the boy said, "You can go now." Jace turned around to ask him what he meant. The back seat was empty. 1 second he'd been there, I'm sure of it, or as sure as I can be of anything from that night. The next second there was only the sag in the seat cushion, and my purse tipped over beside me, fries spilled across the floor mat. We waited until there was daylight enough to show color again, then drove down together and found a 24-hour diner. Priya called her brother. Jace kept insisting he hadn't unlocked the doors. I couldn't stop staring at the black smudges on the outside of the passenger windows. He washed them off at the gas station, or tried to. They weren't dirt. They were palm prints, long and narrow, oily dark against the paint, 4 fingers and a thumb, but the thumb sat too low, almost at the wrist. Mine were on the rear passenger door, a whole row of them, as if something had run beside my side of the car and touched it lightly the whole way. I moved out of Anthem 6 months later for reasons that had nothing to do with this. At least that's what I told people. But I still don't take I-17 north after midnight if I can avoid it. And every now and then, when somebody says don't look, I listen. Story 3. The Loop 202 on the east side has this way of making you feel like you're between places even when you aren't. Freeway, riverbed, casino glow, stretches of open dark, then suddenly warehouses and neighborhoods again. I drove rideshare full-time for about a year when I was trying to keep a landscaping business from going under. You take whatever jobs you can, and after a while the valley starts to feel less like a city and more like a bunch of islands connected by lanes and bad decisions. I used to keep sunflower seeds in the cup holder, a towel over the passenger seat because my shirts got dusty from job sites, and a tiny St. Christopher medallion on the key ring because my mother Dahlia mailed it to me without asking. I'm not especially religious. I just didn't want to hurt her feelings. This happened on a Tuesday, I think. The casino off the 202 had just let out some event, and I got a pickup from a woman named Yuki Arakawa going to a gated community farther west. She got in with a paper takeout bag that smelled like garlic and grilled onions and apologized for being quiet because she'd been at a work thing all evening. Normal, completely normal. We talked a little about traffic, about how Phoenix roads always look like they were drawn by somebody who hated people. She laughed at that. My phone was at 42%. There was dirt under my thumbnail from a sprinkler repair. I remember all that because I keep measuring the before part, like maybe if I line it up right I can find where the night slipped. About 10 minutes into the trip, my navigation voice changed. Not the route, the voice. I use the same generic female setting everybody does because I never think about it. Suddenly, the next direction came through in my older brother Abel's voice. "Take the next exit, Gav." I nearly dropped my phone. Yuki looked up from the bag in her lap. "Was that custom?" I said, too fast. "Number glitch." Abel had been dead 3 years by then. Heat stroke on a roofing crew in July. We hadn't been close at the end. Too many old arguments, too much pride. Hearing his voice in that little enclosed space felt wrong in a way I can't fully explain. Not emotional at first, mechanical, like finding one of his teeth in a drawer. I told myself the app had sampled something. Ads bleed into podcasts, phones misfire, Bluetooth crosses signals. There's always some dumb technological excuse available now, and I grabbed at it hard. Then the map line changed. Instead of the usual blue route, the screen showed a trail of tiny white footprints leading off the freeway. Yuki leaned forward. "Do you see that?" I did. Each footprint icon faced slightly inward, like whatever had made them was walking pigeon-toed. I exited anyway. That sounds stupid now, but I did it because the app still showed her address as the destination, and because a rooted driver learns to obey that blue line even when it makes no sense. It led us off the freeway, past a frontage road, then onto a lane skirting a dry riverbed where construction had cleared a bunch of dirt. No streetlights there, just my headlights, the faint glow from the casino behind us, and the low, dark banks of the wash. Yuki said quietly, "I don't think this is right." "Me neither." I slowed down. Gravel popped under the tires. The app voice came again, still able, "S. You missed it last time." My hands started shaking. Last time, I hadn't ever brought a ride out there. At least I don't think I had. I sat up straighter, like posture alone could return some control, and turned down the riverbed lane until I found room to swing around. That's when the voices started outside. At first I thought it was wind moving through brush. Then I heard words. More than one voice, low and overlapping, coming from down in the wash where my headlights only reached in slices. One of them was my mother. One of them was me, not exactly shouting, more like calling someone in from another room. Yuki clutched her bag so hard it tore at the top. "Are there people down there?" I wanted there to be. Drunk kids, homeless camp, anything with a normal body attached to it. Then my rear window fogged from the outside in one fast oval bloom as if somebody had exhaled directly against the glass. Phoenix night in dry season doesn't do that. I looked in the mirror. 2 handprints appeared in the fog, small ones, child-sized maybe. The fingers spread too wide. Yuki twisted around in her seat. "Drive." I already had the car in reverse, but I made the mistake of checking over my shoulder. There was a shape at the edge of the wash behind us, half down the bank. I only got a clean look for a second. Thin shoulders, head tilted too far. Arms hanging loose at first, then raising slowly as if it had just remembered how arms worked. And where its face should have been lit by the reverse lights, I saw pale flatness except for a dark wet line opening where the mouth belonged. The app voice from my dash said, in Abel's exact tired tone, "Don't leave me here." That almost got me. I mean that literally. Some part of me seized up hearing that voice say those words because of everything unsaid between us, because guilt is just another way something can get inside you if it wants. I froze with my foot half on the brake, half on the gas. Yuki slapped my shoulder. Hard. "Gavin, go." I backed up so fast the car bucked. Gravel sprayed. The shape at the bank started down on all fours, not quickly, not lunging, just with this patient spider-like care that made it worse. The small handprints on the rear glass slid downward as if whatever made them was lowering itself with the car. I got us turned around and shot back toward the frontage road. The voices kept pace for a few seconds from the wash, still overlapping, still using tones I recognized and hated. One of them laughed in my own voice. I swear that happened. We hit pavement and I didn't stop until we reached a lit hotel entrance near the freeway where a valet was standing outside. I pulled up crooked under the awning, both of us breathing like we'd run a mile. The valet came over, saw our faces, and stepped back. Yuki got out first. She left the torn takeout bag on the floor. I got out too because suddenly being inside the car felt worse than being outside it. Under the awning lights, the windows looked normal again. I told the valet there was someone following us. He looked toward the road and saw nothing. Yuki called another ride. She asked if I was okay, which was kind of her, and I lied and said yes. Before she left, she reached into her bag, pulled out a packet of tissues, and set it on my dashboard like I might need them. I still think about that. I sat there another 20 minutes. No more voices, no fog, no footprints on the map when I checked again. Just the ordinary app screen, ordinary route history, ordinary night. But when I got home and cleaned out the back seat, I found mud under the rear window seal. Not dirt from shoes. Wet, dark mud packed up into the rubber seam from the inside, with 2 neat grooves pressed into it like fingertips had hooked there and held on. Phoenix hadn't had rain in days. I sold the landscaping business that winter and stopped driving nights a few weeks after. People ask why, and I usually say the money wasn't worth the wear on the car. That's true enough. It's just not the whole truth. Story 4. Carefree Highway sounds pleasant if you've never driven it at 1 in the morning. The name gives people the wrong picture. They imagine open desert and stars and some kind of peaceful emptiness. What it actually feels like, at least at that hour, is a strip of pavement laid through a place that would prefer not to be crossed. I was doing rideshare on weekends back then because my day job at a dental office barely covered rent in Deer Valley, and the farther north the requests took me, the less I liked the silence between pickups. My glove box was jammed with napkins and tampons and expired insurance cards. I kept a can of peach sparkling water rolling around the passenger footwell. My hair tie had snapped earlier that night, so I was driving with a pencil through my bun like some exhausted librarian stereotype. I remember being irritated about that long before I got scared. The ride came in from a bar near North Phoenix. His name was Cedric Boone. Big guy, polite, maybe early 40s, wearing work boots and a reflective shirt tied around his waist. He said he'd missed the last ride from a friend and needed to get out to a rental north of New River because he had a job site early. He smelled like beer and drywall dust, which is a sentence I didn't expect to write in my life, but there it is. The first half hour was uneventful. He talked more than I did. Told me about a broken compressor, a foreman named Hector nobody liked, some argument over extension cords, mundane work stuff. Good, honestly, human. He had one of those deep laugh voices that makes a car feel less empty. I remember my dashboard clock being 3 minutes fast. I remember seeing a rabbit dead on the shoulder and feeling bad about it. I remember the moon looking flat and yellow over the low hills. Then the app took us off the main highway onto a frontage road I didn't know. Cedric noticed before I said anything. I don't usually go this way. Construction, maybe, I said. It wasn't a lie. It was what I wanted to believe. The road narrowed and dipped through a wash under a concrete overpass. No lights there except my headlights. The walls rose close and chalky on either side, stained dark where water had run months ago. As we approached the underpass, something flashed across the windshield above us. I hit the brakes. Cedric grabbed the dash. What the hell was that? I stared out into the beam pattern, trying to make it fit something simple. Bird, plastic bag, branch, but there were no branches overhead, and it had moved with intent. Fast, sideways, low against the concrete. I laughed once too high. Maybe an owl? Cedric didn't answer. We rolled forward again, slower. The sound started then, a dry clicking from above, like fingernails on tile except deeper, jointed. Halfway under the bridge, the clicking stopped. There's a particular kind of silence that doesn't feel like absence. It feels like listening. I became very aware of my own breathing, the little rattle in my AC vent, the seatbelt tight across my collarbone. Then Cedric made this horrible choking noise and pointed. Something was on the windshield, upside down. Its hands, or hand-like things, were spread wide on the glass, long fingers splayed at impossible angles. Its body stayed above the roofline where I couldn't see all of it. What I could see was the face hanging inches from mine through the windshield. Pale, flattened mouth full of small, crowded teeth clicking together, eyes not missing exactly but tucked too far to the sides like they belonged on a prey animal. It tilted its head, not curious, more like measuring. I screamed and hit the gas. The thing slid backward over the roof with a scraping thud. Cedric yelled, "Go, go, go," as if I needed reminding. We shot out from under the bridge and onto the frontage road again. I could hear movement overhead, then on the rear of the car, then gone. I didn't stop. I didn't even check the mirrors right away. I just drove. The road bent and bent again, and instead of opening toward homes, it ran us deeper into black desert cut by washes. "Turn around," Cedric said. "I'm trying." The app kept insisting I continue. Then my headlights caught the underpass ahead. Same stained concrete, same low clearance, same graffiti on the right wall, a faded blue shape like a lopsided star. We were back at it. "No," Cedric said quietly. "I wish I had something clever or brave to tell you about that moment. I don't." I started crying, not sobbing, just angry tears, because I knew roads don't do that, and I was still trying to force it into some pattern my brain could survive. We slowed before the bridge. Neither of us wanted to go under it again. From somewhere above us came 3 slow knocks on the roof. Cedric whispered, "Layla, leave the car." He was already unbuckling. That hadn't been my plan. It felt insane. But the second he said it, I knew staying inside that little metal shell was worse. I threw the car into park, snatched my phone, and we ran. The wash embankment on the right was steep and loose. I slipped twice, filling my shoes with sand. Cedric hauled me by the elbow, half dragging me. Behind us, car doors stood open in the headlights. The engine idled. Somewhere above or around or under it, that clicking started again. We climbed until we reached the service road above the wash. A truck stop sign glowed maybe a quarter mile away, and I don't think either of us decided to head for it so much as our bodies chose light over dark. We didn't look back until we reached the lot. My car was still below, tiny and crooked in the wash road. Something pale moved over the roofline and down the hood in a smooth, insect-like fold, then vanished behind it. Cedric and I stood under the truck stop lights, shaking so hard we looked drunk. He wanted to call the police. I wanted to call my sister Simone. We did neither right away, because how do you explain any of that without hearing yourself sound broken? Eventually, a tow driver came with us after dawn because my car battery had somehow died. He said maybe I'd left lights on. Fine, sure. Inside the windshield on my side, there were 3 clean streaks through the dust. On the inside, thin curved marks starting high near the rearview mirror and dragging downward, as if something had rested its fingertips against the glass from within and let them slide. Cedric never rode with me again. Smart man. I still drive that highway sometimes in daylight. I don't take frontage roads anymore. I don't care what the app says. And if I come to an underpass with no traffic and no lights, I wait for another car. I would rather seem ridiculous than be alone under there. Story 5. The east side past Phoenix gets lonely in a different way than the west side. Out west, it feels empty because the city gives up. Out east, especially heading toward Apache Junction at night, it feels like the land is still deciding whether to let the city pretend it belongs there. My Aunt Myria lives out that direction, and a couple years ago I took a rideshare back after helping her move boxes because my own truck was in the shop with a transmission problem I'd been putting off for weeks. The driver was a woman named Simone Keith. She had a cracked phone mount held together with pink tape, a bag of sunflower seeds in the door pocket, and one of those little dashboard hula figures bobbing every time we hit a bump. I remember those details because the normal parts of that ride were so aggressively normal. I was tired, covered in dust. My aunt had made me take leftover tamales in foil even though I said no. My right forearm had a cardboard cut from a wardrobe box. Phoenix still glowed behind us, but thinner, and the mountains out there looked black and close. There'd been a crash on the main route, so Simone took a detour off US 60 onto a service road that ran by some older lots and raw desert cut through with fences. She apologized and said the app swore it would save 15 minutes. "It never does," I told her. She laughed. "You know the game." That road dropped past a boarded produce stand, then bent along a stretch of wash and low rock. No houses for a bit, no gas stations, just reflectors and dark. The first odd thing was the tapping under the floor. I assumed rock, that's all. Pebbles kicked up into the undercarriage. I even lifted my boots off the mat because I thought maybe something from my aunt's boxes had fallen and was rolling around. But the tapping had rhythm. 3 fast, pause, 3 slow. Simone heard it too. Heat shield maybe. Probably. There's that word again. Probably. It carried me through a lot of bad decisions that night. A few minutes later, the app rerouted again, this time onto a narrower road that looked more like access for utility vehicles than regular traffic. Simone swore at her phone. I checked my own map and got no signal. "We'll just cut back," she said. A headlight swept across a hillside scarred by old fencing and one rusted metal gate sunk into the earth at an angle. It looked like the entrance to nothing. Maybe an old drainage cut. Maybe a mine access. I didn't study it long because I was busy wondering how much surge fare I'd get hit with if I had to order another ride out there. Then the gate moved, not swinging, bowing. Something pressed against it from behind. My first thought was animal, deer maybe, even though I've never seen one move like that. The metal pushed outward, then relaxed, pushed again. Simone slowed without meaning to. The car crept. What came through the gap is the clearest image I have from the whole thing. A shoulder first. Bare, pale, streaked with dirt like clay had dried on it. Then an elbow, except it bent the wrong way and kept bending, joint after joint, until an arm unfolded out of that narrow opening far longer than the space should have allowed. The hand touched the ground with blackened fingertips and pulled. I made a sound I'm not proud of. Simone slammed the gas. The tires spun, caught, and we shot forward. In the side mirror, I saw more of it rising from the gate, not fast, not rushing, just patient, like something getting out of bed. The tapping under the floor stopped. That should have been good. Instead, it made the whole car feel vacant in a new way, like whatever had been down there had gotten what it wanted. "Tell me you saw that," Simone said. "Yeah." It came out thin. My mouth tasted like pennies. We found the main road again for maybe a minute before something hit the underside of the car hard enough to lift us in our seats. Simone yelped and fought the wheel. "Nope. No, no, no." Another hit, closer to my feet this time. A scraping drag followed, metal shrieking under us. I bent down on instinct as if I could see through the floor mat. That's when the vent by my shins breathed cold air, not AC. The system wasn't on, just one wet cold exhale through the plastic slats against my jeans. I jerked my legs up onto the seat and banged my head on the window. Rational thought completely gone by then. I didn't care how stupid I looked. Simone took a sharp turn into what looked like an old equipment lot ringed by chain link fence and stacked concrete pipe. She killed the headlights. "Maybe it'll pass," she whispered. As soon as the lights went out, I regretted it. Dark in the desert isn't one thing, there are layers to it. The kind under a freeway is different from the kind between rocks and wire and abandoned equipment. This dark felt occupied. We sat there listening. Metal tick from the engine, my breathing. Something brushing the underside of the car in slow sweeps. Then a sound from the trunk area, not outside, inside the car body somewhere, like knuckles dragging along the interior frame. Simone reached for her phone, no signal. My aunt's foil packet of tamales slid off my lap onto the floor with a soft slap. That tiny domestic sound almost broke me more than the other stuff. There came a denting noise beneath us. Pop, pop, pop. As if fingers were pressing up into the floor pan one by one. I whispered, "Get out." Simone whispered back, "And run where?" She had a point. Then the rear seat dipped. Both of us turned at once. No one was there, but the upholstery sank in the middle, slow and deliberate, like invisible weight settling down. That's what made us move. Simone shoved her door open and bolted. I followed on my side, nearly tripping over the fence line. We ran through the equipment lot between stacked pipe sections big enough to stand in. Gravel turned under my shoes. Something clanged behind us against metal. I didn't look. There were utility lights in the distance along a larger road. We aimed for those like insects. Halfway there, Simone grabbed my shirt and yanked me sideways behind a concrete barrier. I almost yelled at her until I heard it, crawling, not in brush, across metal. Back at the car, something moved over the roof in a slow, circling pattern. I could hear its weight shift, hear the roof pop inward and out. Then silence. We stayed low until headlights from an actual pickup truck came along the access road. We stumbled out waving like lunatics. The driver, an older guy named Silas Orr, let us climb into the bed without even asking questions first. Maybe our faces answered enough. When we returned with him and another man after sunrise, Simone's car looked mostly fine. Mostly. The tow guy found the problem under the passenger side. The heat shield near where my feet had been was peeled backward in 2 long strips, not torn by impact, but folded clean as if something had gotten fingertips under it and pulled. There were dirt smears inside the front footwell vent too, packed into the corners where no dust should have reached. I kept one of the tamale foil sheets by accident because it had been mashed under the seat during all that. Weeks later, when I finally pulled it from my laundry pile, there was a black hand-shaped print on it. Too long, too many knuckles in the wrong places. I threw it away. Then I dug it out of the trash just to make sure I hadn't imagined it. I hadn't. Story 6. Festival weekends west of Phoenix are good money if you drive. Everybody wants out at different times. Nobody wants to designate a sober driver, and the surge pricing gets ridiculous. I did a stretch of rideshare full-time after my salon closed, and those long outbound trips to Buckeye and farther felt worth it on paper. In real life, once you get west on I-10 and the lights start falling behind you, it can feel like you're delivering people to the edge of a map. I kept snacks in the console, 2 bottles of warm water rolling around on the floor, and a packet of cheap makeup wipes in the side pocket because dust got on everything out there. My trunk always smelled faintly like hairspray and jumper cables. This was after a concert, or maybe one of those desert EDM events. The rider was a guy named Quentin Sayegh, mid-20s, nice enough, tired enough that he barely talked. He was going to meet friends at a rental past Buckeye. He got in with 1 dead phone, half a breakfast burrito in foil, and an apologetic smile. Normal ride, mostly quiet. We got farther west and traffic thinned. The freeway lights spread out. Desert took over. There were construction signs, then long stretches with only our headlights and the red eyes of towers blinking way off. Quentin fell asleep for a while. I know because he snored once and woke himself up. My left contact lens felt dry. I was thinking about whether I'd left a curling iron plugged in. Totally regular brain clutter. Then I saw what looked like road workers ahead. 6 of them, maybe 7, standing on the shoulder by a lane closure taper, reflective vests, hard hats, one waving both arms. I slowed automatically. You do that. Nobody wants to blow past some overnight crew and end up on the news. Quentin sat up. What's going on? Construction, maybe. Even as I said it, I knew something was off. No trucks, no aero board, no floodlights, no cones except 3 lying on their sides in the dirt. The figures stepped closer to the lane. They were small, not children exactly, child-sized, thin in a way that made the vests hang wrong. The hard hats sat too low, almost covering their faces. Quentin said, "Don't stop." I was already easing off the brake to go around them. Then all of them turned their heads toward us at the same time. Too far, not a quick human glance. A smooth over-rotation until their chins pointed almost behind their shoulders and the hat brims tipped sideways. One of the hard hats fell off. Under it was no hair. Just a pale, narrow skull shape with skin pulled tight over it and no features I could make out except a mouth opening straight down. I hit the horn and swerved left. They moved as a group, not scrambling, coordinating. 2 stepped into the lane ahead, 3 fanned toward the shoulder, 1 dropped to all 4s and disappeared below my headlights. Something struck the rear of the car. Quentin yelled, "Go!" I punched the accelerator. Another impact hit the trunk lid. Then fingers, small, fast, too many of them, drummed across the back window so rapidly it sounded like rain. We were doing 80, maybe more. The drumming kept up. I looked in the mirror once and saw 3 of them in the road behind us, standing still in the lane, while one shape clung flat to the trunk like a lizard. I screamed so loudly I heard myself crack. Quentin twisted around in his seat and made the worst decision of the night besides accepting that ride. He lifted his phone to use the dead black screen like a mirror toward the back window. He whispered, "Brielle." I don't know what he saw in that reflection. He never fully described it later, just shook his head every time I asked. The thing on the trunk started trying the edge of the rear windshield, not pounding, picking, tiny precise tugs. Orange reflectors flashed ahead where the freeway shoulder widened near an emergency turnaround. I jerked the wheel, cut across the gore point, and reversed down the gravel shoulder because turning around conventionally felt impossible with that thing attached. For a second, it vanished from the rear glass. Then it appeared at Quentin's window, upside down, clinging to the door, vest hanging toward the sky, one hand flattened on the glass. The palm was too big for the arm, the face, if I can call it that, pressed near the window seam, smooth where eyes should have been, mouth opening vertically, and inside it I saw what looked like reflective tape packed in layers like a tongue made of roadwork strips. Quentin kicked the door so hard the whole car shook. I threw it into drive and shot forward again, this time heading back east toward the brighter stretch of highway. The thing peeled away. I saw it tumble once in the headlights of our own rebound glance, then stand without using its hands. We didn't stop until a truck plaza with semis idling under floodlights. I parked between 2 enormous rigs because I wanted metal walls on either side of us. Quentin was hyperventilating. I was laughing and crying at the same time, which is a terrible look, but there you go. A woman trucker came over and knocked on my window. Asked if we'd had a blowout because she saw us fishtail in. I said no. Quentin said yes. Neither of us wanted to say the real thing. Once we were under lights, the rear of the car looked mostly okay. Then Quentin pointed at the back wiper. Threaded through it, woven carefully between the rubber and the arm like somebody had stood there braiding, was a strip of orange reflective material. Fresh, clean, not torn from any vest I'd seen on a real worker. We searched the trunk and roof. Found nothing else except shallow dents near the license plate, too small for a fist and too neat for road debris. I canceled the rest of my rides for the weekend. Sometimes people ask why I won't drive out west at night anymore, and I say the money isn't good enough once you factor in gas. That answer gets a nod and ends the conversation. If I told them the full truth, I'd have to explain why I still check every cluster of construction workers from half a mile away to make sure they're not all turning their heads together. Story 7. Rideshares after games are chaos, and Phoenix after a Suns game has this temporary buzzing happiness that can make you forget how quickly the city empties once you're out of the core. That night, I'd stayed too long downtown with coworkers, missed the light rail on purpose because I didn't feel like standing, and ordered a ride north toward my apartment near North Mountain. My driver was Lucien Pike, older guy, calm, shaved head, the sort of driver who keeps mints in a little plastic dish and classical music low enough that you can ignore it. I had a foam finger jammed under one arm as a joke from the game, a flat cola, and a headache starting behind my right eye. My boss Elodie had spilled cheese on her blouse earlier and made a huge deal out of it. That's the kind of completely useless thing I remember from before. Lucien had one rule posted on the back of the seat: no vaping. Fair enough. We got on SR 51 heading north. Traffic thinned quickly. Downtown glow fell behind us. Mountains turned into black humps on either side. There's a stretch there where the freeway feels suspended, like you're skimming through dry darkness. At first I was half on my phone, half staring out the window. Lucian made pleasant old guy conversation about how bad everybody merges. I answered with the usual noises. Then I noticed a car ahead of us, same make as Lucian's, same color, same cracked tail light on the left side. I only noticed because I'd seen that crack when I got in. I leaned forward. That's weird. Lucian squinted. Huh. Same rideshare sticker in the back window too. My first thought was simple coincidence. Phoenix has a lot of silver sedans, lots of drivers. My headache was making me irritable, not frightened. Then we got closer. Same license plate. I actually laughed. Okay, no. Lucian didn't laugh. The car ahead of us drifted slightly into the next lane, and through its back window I saw a passenger in the right rear seat, same shirt as me, same stupid foam finger silhouette in one hand. I felt every hair on my arms lift at once. Pass it, I said. Lucian hit the accelerator. The other car sped up too. For maybe 30 seconds we sat in that impossible comparison, neither gaining nor falling back. I kept staring at the outline in the other back seat, trying to prove to myself I was matching random shapes because my brain loves patterns. Then the other passenger turned its head. It was me, not movie perfect, not exact, enough to make my stomach drop like an elevator cut loose. The face had my features, but wrong in the way a rushed drawing is wrong, eyes too wide apart. Smile pulled tight and late. It lifted its hand and pressed the foam finger slowly to the glass from the inside. I made Lucian swear by yelling loud enough to startle both of us. He changed lanes and tried to overtake on the left. The duplicate car moved left too. He dropped back and cut right, so did it. No brake lights from the other driver, no signal, just smooth matching. Lucian said very carefully, "Don't look at them." Too late. I was sweating through my shirt by then. My phone camera was suddenly in my hand because some pathetic part of me wanted proof more than safety. I snapped a burst through the windshield. The other car's front seat driver turned slightly. Lucian, same profile, same shaved head. Only the head kept turning past the point a neck should let it until the face inside that car looked directly back at us through its own side window. Lucian in my car made a sound I have never heard from another adult man. It was small and animal and honest. He took the next exit hard, tires chirping. The other car stayed on the freeway for maybe a second, then its brake lights flashed and it dove for the same ramp without losing speed. "Service road," I said. "Take the service road." Why I said that, I don't know. Instinct maybe. Fear talking. He did it anyway, jerking us onto a frontage road lined by low walls and closed offices. The duplicate sedan stayed behind us through 2 turns, then 3, no other traffic, no witnesses, just us and them and the yellow sodium lights making everything sick looking. At a dead end near a maintenance gate, Lucian stopped because there was nowhere else to go. I thought that was it. The other car rolled up facing us, headlights on low beam. For a second, both vehicles sat nose to nose with maybe 20 feet between them. Then the passenger door of the other car opened. The other me stepped out. I got only one clear look. Same clothes, yes, same face mostly. But the arms were too long, hanging low enough that the fingertips brushed the pavement when it straightened. And the smile wasn't a smile so much as a split held shut by effort. It started toward our car. Lucian threw ours into reverse, slammed backward until he found enough angle, then shot the car over a curb and across a patch of decorative gravel. We bottomed out so hard I bit my tongue. He didn't care. We burst through an opening onto a parallel access lane and caught an intersection just as the light changed. The other car did not follow through the red. It stopped at the line. That detail matters to me for some reason, maybe because it suggests rules, or pretends to. Lucian drove to a brightly lit 24-hour car wash and parked under the vacuum canopy. We sat there in harsh white light, both breathing like we'd been punched. Eventually he said, "Did you get a picture?" I checked my phone. Most of the burst shots were blurs of dashboard and glare. But one frame, just one, showed the other sedan ahead of us on the freeway. Through the back window, clear as day, was me sitting in the rear passenger seat. Only I was not holding the foam finger in that photo. I was gripping the top of the seat with both hands, and my own face was turned toward the camera, mouth open much wider than it should have been. Lucien asked me to send him the photo. I couldn't. The file corrupted when I tried. It still lives on an old backup drive somewhere, I think. Or maybe it doesn't. I haven't checked in a long time. What I do know is this: when I got home, the back of my shirt had a smear of dust across one shoulder blade in the shape of a hand. I lived alone, and nobody had touched me in that car except whatever was driving alongside us. Story 8. Northwest of Phoenix, once you get up around the 303 and the roads start stretching toward newer subdivisions and dark desert beyond them, there are whole sections that feel temporary. Fresh pavement, streetlights that stop abruptly, retaining walls with nothing behind them yet. It's like the city is laying down pieces and hoping the rest will arrive later. I drove rideshare early mornings for airport money and late evenings for the long fares, and those edge routes always paid well because nobody wanted them. My name is Marisol Vega, and no, I don't usually say my name in stories, but somehow this one feels wrong without it because I still see my own hands on the steering wheel when I think about it. I had a half-finished iced coffee sweating in the cup holder, a church bulletin folded in the door pocket from Sunday, one broken sunglass arm poking out of my center console, and a lip balm melted into the shape of the cup it had rolled under. Completely ordinary mess. The pickup was from a restaurant near North Phoenix just before dawn. Not sunrise yet, but that gray hour when the sky starts to loosen. My passenger was a woman named Farah Nader. She wore scrubs under a cardigan and looked exhausted enough to sleep standing up. She needed to get to a newer development past the 303 where her sister supposedly lived. She kept apologizing for the long ride. I kept telling her it was fine. She had one overnight bag and the smell of hospital soap on her clothes. We took the 303 north, then exited toward a two-lane road lined on one side by a dirt berm and on the other by raw lots and drainage channels. No traffic, no pedestrians, just that not-quite daylight flattening everything. Farah dozed off in the back. I remember hearing a mourning dove somewhere even though the windows were up. I remember a billboard frame with no sign attached. I remember thinking I needed new windshield wipers before summer storms. Then I saw the dirt moving, not blowing, moving. Along the berm beside the road, maybe 20 feet off, the packed earth was lifting in low humps that traveled parallel to my car. Too smooth for an animal digging. Too deliberate for settling, just a line of raised motion under the crust of soil keeping pace with me. I eased off the gas. The humps slowed too. I sped up. They sped up. "Farah," I said, not turning around. "Are you awake?" She was by then. "What is it?" I pointed. She leaned toward the window. "Probably irrigation pipe." I almost loved her for that, for giving me a stupid answer I could hold on to. Then a face pushed up out of the berm, not emerging fully, just the front of a face, as if the ground had gone soft as water for 1 second and let something beneath it look out. Forehead, nose, cheek, closed eyes under a skin-colored film of dirt. It traveled with us for maybe 2 car lengths, half submerged, then sank back under. Farah made this tiny noise and pulled away from the glass. I said, "Nope." That's all, the smartest thing I said all morning. I pressed harder on the accelerator. The road ahead led toward a gated subdivision still under construction. Behind the fence I could see work lights on near a sales office trailer. Human light, human geometry. The moving humps split into 2 lines,